and I'm an ECO rep with the Office of Sustainability at UT Dallas. And today I wanted to present specifically about the ECO rep program and our waste reduction efforts on campus. And so most of my presentation will be going over the specific projects that I have ownership of as an ECO rep. And then the concluding slides are some key takeaways that would be helpful to students and campus administrators alike. So hopefully there's some good tips and tricks on how to reach the student body from the student perspective, as well as promote a waste reduction campaign on campus. So my first slide is a bit of an introduction about myself and how I became an ECO rep. So as I mentioned, my name is Anastasia Whittemore. I'm currently a junior studying political science on the pre-law track at UT Dallas, and I'm also pursuing a Master of Public Affairs with plans to go to law school after graduation. How I got interested in sustainability was I was first involved with a local think tank called Roosevelt at UTD, and it worked on different initiatives and policies in the Dallas and Texas region. I was also involved with Student Government Sustainability Committee, which is how I heard about an opening with our office for an ECO rep, as well as something that's not mentioned on here, but I was part of an ad hoc committee on Student Government's Green Initiative. And so the combination of all of these things did spark my interest in sustainability, specifically through the lens of policy, as you can see from my interests and degrees. And so as an ECO rep, I do have a specific role on the team that I fulfill, and that is to oversee the planning and execution of things like the Campus Sustainability Month events, Campus Race to Zero Waste events, waste data entry, monthly e-waste recycling, and campus cleanup. So a lot of the tasks that I have to do specifically with waste reduction on campus, but more so, and not just the operational piece of it, but also the education and engagement that comes with reaching out to students campus-wide. And so this year, some of my other projects will also include updating the ASHE STARS report and working on a capstone project about the ecosystem services that our very own Monarch Waste Station on campus provides. And so just a brief overview of what the ECO rep program is. It's a program of student leaders that implement different sustainability programs just based on whatever their fields of expertise are at UT Dallas. And our mission is to really focus in on the students on campus and encourage them to live more sustainably by helping them make those simple daily decisions every day. The main way that we reach students is through social media and events. And so after discussing some of these projects that I've mentioned in more detail, I will present some key takeaways that I think would be helpful for other sustainability leaders in the future when they're trying to appeal to students who may or may not have an initial interest in sustainability. So the first thing that I wanted to discuss was waste data. And so that is one of my more like hands-on operational tasks that I lead. I enter monthly reports from partners like Waste Management, Organics Recycling, Worldware, and others. We've also partnered up on a sensor pilot program for different containers. But clearly these are things that students particularly see on campus. It's just more of an ECO rep tasks behind the scenes. But what it does help me do is to depict and interpret the data and these findings. And so looking at the trash and recycling numbers, I'm able to determine, well, what are the patterns and how do students tend to recycle and throw away waste both on campus and on our housing facilities. And then I can make different predictions about how we can improve our waste reduction efforts, specifically through the lens of the student body. So for instance, this past spring, we noticed a trend that students are more passionate and adamant about recycling towards the beginning of each semester. And then as the semester sort of winds up, students tend to throw more things away into the trash. So we really wanted to front load our waste reduction efforts this year And over the summer, we led some of our first freshman orientations where we spoke specifically about the programs that the Office of Sustainability offers for students to get involved with, but also the different services that we offer that many students don't know about, such as recycling, composting, and where those locations can be found on campus. So the next project that I have ownership of and actually learned quite a bit of from our past season is Campus Race to Zero Waste. For a brief overview, it's a competition that UT Dallas participates in annually to mobilize colleges and universities to basically compete against each other in terms of the amount of waste and recycling that we're producing, and to improve our efforts based on those results. And so last year, the way that I approached the season, it was remote, so it was sort of a different environment, but I compiled a small cohort or coalition of students, and we would meet on a bi-weekly basis. And so we would establish different goals for ourselves. We started out by setting short-term goals, like leading different events, like a zero waste trivia event for the campus. And then also long-term events, like leading an ongoing social media campaign about recycling. It was also important for us to partner with different ad hoc committees, like the Student Government's Green Initiative. And we were able to produce the Student Sustainability Guide, which is now on our Office of Sustainability website. And so we had some contributions into it, and it really discusses more heavily about the programs that the Office of Sustainability and other sustainability-oriented organizations offer at UT Dallas, and also expands a little bit out into the DFW area and how students can support sustainable businesses, as well as just live more zero waste on a daily basis. And so you might be able to see that I'm already having some takeaways from that, like the importance of forming a student coalition and not just approaching these projects by myself, and partnering with other student organizations on campus, but I will summarize those towards the end of the presentation. The next big project that was a huge learning experience for me, and we're actually in the midst of right now, is the Campus Sustainability Month. Below, I've included an agenda just to give you an idea of the sorts of events that we host and are probably going to be pretty successful with, because we tailored it to the interests of students. So the first one is campus cleanup. It's a great way for students to get volunteer hours. They come out on a Saturday and pick up litter around campus for about 3 hours. It's meant to beautify our campus and protect wildlife, but at the same time, students are able to apply this service to their student sustainability service hours. So the office benefits from having a cleaner campus, and students benefit from reaching their goal and graduating with those honors. A second event that we're hosting is e-waste recycling. This was our newest initiative this year, and I want to talk a little bit more in detail about it on some of the next slides. But basically, we're giving students the opportunity to recycle their personal and small electronics free of charge. But besides doing that, we also use this as an event to table about our other programs and initiatives. So that's a great way to approach hosting events on campus, especially around waste reduction, is to maybe have the electronics recycling bin sitting there, but also be promoting some of the other things that our other eco-reps are working on, because it's getting a lot of visibility from being a table right in the middle of campus. Our next event is the Green Convene. It's an annual gathering that we host for sustainability-oriented organizations, because we want to prioritize collaboration across these student clubs on campus. And so a lot of the times we would ask student organization leaders to come with certain projects that they want to talk about. For instance, right now we have a single-use plastics ban petition, and so we would highly, for this year, probably encourage the students attending to sign on to the petition and share it on their social medias. So it's just a great way for the different sustainability initiatives to come together, because a lot of the times we're working on separate things, and by hosting the Green Convene in the fall and a Spring Green Convene in the spring, we're able to keep up to date with each other and also engage the larger campus. We do have some social media challenges, and social media is one of the keys to the success of our office. And so some of the things that I think we would be implementing is like a mugshot challenge, where students take pictures with a mug or a coffee cup, or Caught Green-Handed challenge, where they're either recycling or gardening or composting on campus, and then they can send it into our office for a chance to win giveaways. So once again, we're promoting the types of things that students can do to be more sustainable on campus, but also incentivizing them through the giving away of some of our merchandise. We have a new student farm on campus called the Eco Hub, and it's a great way for students to get volunteer hours. And so we do have a kickoff event for that. And just some other relevant events for students is a college cooking event and a houseplant horticulture event. And so we really do try to tailor it to where it's relevant to students and not just a broad sustainability topic that they can't really engage with on a daily basis. I have mentioned e-waste recycling. And so I've sort of mentioned the key takeaway from that, and that's combining different events together. So not just sitting there with an e-waste recycling bin, but combining it with tabling and maybe even giving away some sorts of flyers or QR codes that students can link to and get engaged. And so that's basically what the slide is about. So I think I'll skip over it. And then campus cleanups is something that I also discussed. A lot of these events overlap with what we're doing for October Sustainability Month. But something like the e-waste events and campus cleanups is we attempt to hold them also in the spring and just maybe on a monthly basis or every 2 months, so that it just becomes a part of the campus culture and something that students look forward to doing and rely on as a way to get their volunteer hours, because we do require 250 hours in order to graduate with the Sustainability Service Honors. It's great that it overlaps with things like Campus Sustainability Month and Campus Race to Zero Waste, but it's also important to make sure that these events are consistent. And so briefly, some of my upcoming and ongoing projects is I will be serving on the TRACS 2022 virtual event planning team. We're going to be planning something that I'm hoping is a little bit similar to the Green Convene, where different sustainability-oriented individuals can come together and collaborate on projects and talk about the initiatives on their campuses. I will be updating the HE STARS report, which is just, once again, like the waste data, a more of behind-the-scene EcoRep specific task, but it does help us engage departments like research and our classroom curriculum. And then just based off of those findings and patterns, we can find better ways to reach the student body. I will also be researching and completing a capstone project about ecosystem services. And so the whole point of that is that if anybody wants to maybe start construction on our Monarch Waste Station, we can point to the data and say that, well, here's the non-monetary values that the land brings. And so it should just be a useful project, but it illustrates just one of the ways that the EcoRep program has helped me take ownership of different projects. And finally, I am a teaching assistant for my supervisor's class, Community Engaged Service Learning. And it is a great way to speak about the SDGs to students, because we do, as you see from the graphic on the left, try to promote all of these events through the lens of the SDGs, as this is probably one of the most relevant things to students, but unfortunately something they don't know much about. So having gone through the different projects, the first thing that I want to reflect on is that the EcoRep program is invaluable to a campus. It really does help students zero in on something that they're passionate about, like waste reduction or marketing or gardening, and go ahead and lead some of the projects. But more than that, it helps me gain that experience. And so some of the key takeaways that I've included on these slides are applicable not only to sustainability, but also, I think, to many, many other projects that we're leading in this day and age. And so the first takeaway that I wanted to discuss is that waste reduction efforts should be direct and quantifiable. So what I mean by direct is that we can discuss the importance and have these conversations with students about why it is important to reduce waste on campus and recycle more. But at the end of the day, if they don't know where the recycling bins are or how they can get trained to compost on campus, chances are they're not going to do it unless it's easy for them. So we do want to make sure that our efforts are as direct and as simple as possible, and also quantifiable. I do a lot of work with the waste reduction data on campus, and it's useful to incorporate it into some of our solutions and even talk to students about it Recently, I sent over some of our September waste data over to student government for some of their resolutions. And so just combining the totals and making it easy to understand, but numerical can be an effective way of showing students the importance of this. The second key takeaway that I've had as an eCorrep is that information should be packaged in a fun and simple way for students. Many students don't know about sustainability or the projects that our office lead just because they have a lot of other things going on in their lives. And so as long as it's a fun event or fun social media challenge and simple for students to engage, chances are we usually get a good turnout. And I think that's one of the keys to our success. The next takeaway is long-term campaigns should incorporate efforts from the entire team if there is an eCorrep team on a campus or just a student group trying to promote sustainability at a university, because it does ensure that the momentum is kept going and that there's variety. So for instance, on our team, we have eCorreps that focus on gardening and marketing and waste reduction. And so as you've seen from the events from Campus Sustainability Month, we have different ones about cooking and planting and e-waste. So it adds in a little bit of variety so that students don't just associate sustainability with recycling only. And the final takeaway on this slide is the importance of cohorts. Coming in, when I was asked to lead Campus Race to Zero Waste, the first thing I thought of is the importance of forming a student coalition, because these initiatives are just too difficult to achieve just as a single person. I do have some more takeaways that are more general, but social media has been a great channel for us to reach students, as everybody is generally on social media. And so it's good for student recruitment, but also event promotion. That is one of the primary ways that we get students to register and come out to events. It's also important to partner with student leaders and sustainability-oriented organizations. So hosting events like the Green Convene or partnering with different student government committees has been a very useful tool for us in the past. I think I mentioned this before, but event topics should be relevant to the student body. So it shouldn't just be some complicated webinar about data on campus and the ESG STARS report. A lot of the times that sort of goes over students' heads. So as long as we can break that information down to something that's relevant to their daily lives, chances are that they will be pretty interested. And finally, most students don't know about sustainability on campus. It's crazy that when we table, a lot of students don't know that we have a student farm or that we recycle or that we compost. So the more conversations that we can have with students just as individual students or administrators or faculty, the better. And those conversations can take place through social media, remote meetings, or talking to people in person at events. But I think that is probably one of the primary takeaways that I have from being an eCorrep at UT Dallas. And so that does conclude my presentation. I wanted to thank you for tuning in. And I hope that my student projects and the eCorrep program at UT Dallas does bring some sort of an innovative perspective to sustainability in higher education and some of the first general steps that anybody should take if they want to reach students successfully and help them care about sustainability on their campus. Thank you.